Hey, what's up you guys? This is Bart coming to you from TST Industries in Florida with the third installment of our Fender elimination for the Yamaha MT-10 behind me. In the first two installments, we instructed you on how to construct and install on the bike our fender eliminators. One of the episodes showed the rear mount fender eliminator. The other episode demonstrated the low mount fender eliminator. During those processes, we lost all of the fender lighting because all of that comes off with the removal of the fender, as you see here. So in this video, we will be instructing on what to do about restoring your signals. What you see in front of me here is our integrated taillight for this bike. It has all of the brake and running light features as a standard taillight, but it also has signals built into the capsule. Now, for some people, that's enough. Some people actually will opt to have external signals. So we do also offer a whole host of external signal options, as you see here to the right of me, left of your screen. As an alternative, I know some people really like the OEM signals that the Yamaha comes with. So we do also offer a remount bracket for the OEM signaling. It sandwiches in between the bracket and the closeout from our kit, and it will accept directly the signal and its mounting functions or mounting hardware that mounts with from the factory. I'm going to break down this video into several separate segments because we will focus on this in one segment, we will focus on this in one segment, and the taillight itself has its own video because it requires the removal of a couple components from the bike, and then we mount that in there, and all of the connections are plug and play, so no worries there. But we do have a separate video for this, so please watch that on our YouTube channel or our website, tstindustries.com, within the product page of this product. Now, some people out there have expressed the need to mount dual signaling components. So one set is in the taillight, one set is in the external signaling lamps. For that purpose, we do offer a plug and play connection kit that we call the Y splitter. Why do we call it a Y splitter? Because it looks like a Y. One input, two outputs, everything's plug and play. Whether you choose our taillight or some other signaling components, we do have all plug and play connections, so we want to make that as simple as possible for you guys. Now, these guys mount onto this bracket via the means provided by the OE manufacturer. For our signals, or any 8mm stud signal from somewhere in the aftermarket, you will need a mount kit. We do also offer the mount kits. And on our website, tstindustries.com, we do offer packages that include everything that you will need to just take care of the rear end lighting. So you would get your choice of signals with the mounting kit and the OEM connection so that you don't have to dig around through all these different ads and figure out all the information. We just have it ready to go. Now let me introduce some of these signal options we have here. We have our Echo signal. This is a CNC machined aluminum construction signal. It comes with black anodizing and a silver ring by default. We do offer several different color rings. If you choose to change them, they're very inexpensive and they give you a nice little touch for color combos. This signal uses one LED that is a very, very bright light emitter, and it fires that light stream through a single lens and it cones it out. It's very, very bright, but it does have a very small surface area for emission. So if you want a larger area, we do offer different versions of a pod signal. Here you see our BL6 signal. This is available in standard signal light or inboard to outboard sequential light pattern. Choice is yours. You can make that choice on our website within the product page for this product. Now here we have the Quadrix light. It offers 4 LEDs. It is a sequential light, so it only functions from inboard to outboard. For the rear, you will not be using a running light function, but this does have a running light function in it. Should you choose to install it elsewhere and you want a running light, you just connect it to a constant power source and you're good to go. This is a very elegant, techie, minimalist design. It's a very cool light. I like it. I think I'm gonna choose this one for the actual demonstration purpose in this video. All right, that's pretty much it on the specs. I'm gonna clear the table and we're gonna focus on one chunk at a time, and then we'll show you how to install that on the bike and make it work. In this segment, we're gonna focus on the OEM Signal Remount. What you see in front of me are the two different versions of Fender Eliminator that we sell for this bike that accept the remount kit. They're both the rear version Fender Eliminator. I have both of them on the table in front of me because I want to demonstrate how each one accepts the remount bracket. So for our adjustable version, the screws come in from the top of the closeout to the outside cosmetic area. We back out these screws if you already have it constructed. If you don't, you basically just omit the mounting screws from your adjustable kit. And we will replace these fasteners with the ones that come with our remount kit. During the assembly of this setup, we used Vibratite thread locking agent on the screws. Only a plastic safe thread locking agent is acceptable on these connections. If you use a standard anaerobic chemical, you will degrade the plastic and it will crack over time, and that actually voids your warranty. So please be sensitive to this step. If you're using thread locking agent, make sure it's plastic safe. The replacement fasteners and washers that came with this kit get dropped in from the top. You arrange your bracket like so. They are teardrop shaped. The smaller, more slender portion of the closeout receives the larger diameter of that teardrop, and forward section pointing towards the front of the bike gets the smaller one. And you just line up your hinge bosses with this and you screw them in. So I've demonstrated that. I'm going to show now what to do about the standard setup, the non-adjustable setup. And since we are doing that second, we'll just continue with that setup for the entire installation. So on this setup, you have 4mm accepting screws from the bottom side. So we'll use a 4mm Allen. And then on top here, we have 10mm nuts. We'll use a box wrench of appropriate size here. The nuts and washers will remain in use here. The screws are now redundant. We will take them away. This bracket kit comes with 2 washers. Now you have 6 washers. We can forgo 2 of the washers. They are unnecessary. So now we have our standard bracket stacking to the bottom of the light carrying bracket. Screw and washer from this kit goes through the bottom to the top, and our closeout gets stacked on top. Washer, nut, same tools. Repeat for the other side. As you probably noticed, our signal carrier bracket is slotted. It's able to slide side to side. There are also mounting slots in this main license plate bracket. So before we tighten down all the way, we need to make sure that everything is centered. I've kept a little bit of adjustability in my fasteners. I didn't bottom them out, so I'm gonna get them just a little snugger. Now I will perform my adjustments, make sure everything's center. There is a little bit of yaw freedom in this system as well, so make sure that you get it centered and positioned the way you like. Once this goes on the bike, there is no more possibility of that adjustment, so get it done early on at this step and you'll be happy with the end result. Now, it's important to use enough force to produce enough friction between all of these components so they don't slide around. But please do not over tighten these connections. you are sandwiching a thermoplastic injection molded ABS piece in between a bunch of metal components. So you just want to go down till everything's bottomed out and there is a little bit of preload force on all these components, and then the nylock nuts are taking care of actually locking down the connection so it doesn't vibrate off. You do not need to exert too much force on this stuff. All right, now this chunk is ready. What you see here is a window that I've cut for the large signal connectors that the OEM signals come with. Our closeouts typically do not come with a hole already through because they are universal to many different setups. So what we've done was we provided a hole center here so that you can drill the hole of appropriate size to your wiring requirements. For the license plate light, we only do a 3/16 inch hole. For some aftermarket signals, we go up to a 3/4 inch round hole. For these signals, you can put a very large round hole, or you could follow these walls that we've designed into the closeout and basically put a large hole in the hole center, and then you can use a Dremel with a rotating file like this tool, and you just keep passing that around the walls while it's spinning until you get to these walls that we've provided as a nice boundary for you to follow. Now, I've already done that off camera. That is sort of a lengthy step that is very simple. Just got to get through it. Now I have a hole of appropriate size to pass all this stuff through. So I'm at the point where I'll put this to the side. I'll need to break this down and get my signals dismounted. So for this particular bike, we grab a 4mm Allen, back out these 4 fasteners, flip that over, able to get this component out. Now I'll need to get this flapper out. It does have 2 protrusions coming out of these tabs here that fit into interference windows in the steel. So I just need to pry it up and it just pops out like so. Now all of our wiring is exposed and free. We'll need to focus on the wires that have the white and black plug of this large size. Forward these to this area. Clear all the interferences. All right, now I do kind of have a convoluted view of the area I'm going to be working in, so I'm going to perform the steps, talk about them, take out the signal, and then I will show you what I just did here once it's out so that you're clear in the steps. I'm going to peel back on the rubber catch for our locking component that unlocks the locking component from its position and enables me to take it out. Once that's out of the way, I'm going to grasp the signal, rotate it, and bend down away from me, and that removes it from the well. At this point, I just need to clear the locking component to come out with the signal and carefully withdraw the wire and the connector. Let me quickly demonstrate what I did in there. So this sits in the plastic piece that receives it, and this locking feature jams it in place. And it has tabs that fit into this interference window, and that has a little bit of preload on it so it stays in place. So effectively, to remove it, we peel back on one of these, release the tab. Once this is out, that's when we grasp, rotate, bend, and it comes out. I'm going to repeat the steps on the other side. All right, on Yamahas, the white connector leads to the right signal. The next several steps will be the reverse order of disassembly with the assembly back onto our bracket. The only difficult part here is getting the rubber component into the interference window that it fits into. And that I usually do. I start with the smaller end of the teardrop shape, get that in first, and then work the rest of it in. A small flathead screwdriver helps here sometimes, but you can also do it with a little bit of patience and just your hands. Once you distribute the bulk of that rubber inside the bracket, you can jam it in place with the locking component. All right, that's ready to go. Get the wiring through to the top side and then repeat the steps on the other signal. All right, now we're ready to bring this to the bike, get this whole setup mounted, plug it in, get our license plate back on, and then it'll be good to go. In this chunk, we're gonna cover this type of setup where you have our Fender Eliminator coupled up with our aftermarket signals or any 8mm stud aftermarket signal that you may buy elsewhere. For successful assembly, we will be using our harness converters that take the bullet connectors found on our signals and output them to the OEM connector. We will also be making use of our pod signal mounting kit that comes with all the hardware necessary to physically mount this type of signal to the bracket and also sandwich your license plate in that. So for this kit, we'll assemble it onto our signals in this fashion and then assemble these chunks onto the Fender Eliminator. In the intro, I did mention we will be using the new Quadrix signal to demonstrate our assembly and installation. So here they are. Let's talk about the wiring hole. Here you see the hole that I made in our Fender Eliminator video for the passage of our license plate light wire. For this particular installation, we do have two of these thicker cables, so we will have to upsize on that hole. For that purpose, I will be putting on my eye protection, grabbing a drill. I outfitted my drill with a 1/4-inch bit. I will enlarge the hole that I previously made. And then we'll need to find out if 1/4-inch is big enough for this particular installation. We do have a bulk up of components here. We may have to go up one more size. And technically two cables can be passed through here, but I think I'm gonna have a difficult time fitting all this stuff through with the connectors. So I'm gonna back up a step, grab a larger bit. The next bit size in my kit is a 5/16, making sure I don't have my fingers behind the bit exit. I'm gonna drill that through one more time. I do prefer to stay with a smaller hole, so I often drill these several times, making sure that I don't end up with a hole that's too big for my purpose. This is why you see me drilling it and then re-drilling it. And now it's looking like we're gonna be just fine. So I'm gonna back up and we are going to take care of the physical mounting of the signals first. All right, so our signals are going to be mounted into the round hole on the L bracket from our pod signal mounting kit, and the slotted side is going to interface with the back of our license plate bracket. The license plate itself is going to sit on the outside here, and then we are going to take one of the screws, one of the washers from our pod signal mounting kit, put it through the license plate, through the bracket, through the L bracket, and then cap that off with another washer and a nut. Let's pre-configure our signals onto the L brackets. For now, I'm just going to get it snug by hand. We will adjust to its final position and make it completely tight after we get this on here and then on the bike. Repeat the steps for the other signal. Each one of our pod signal mounting kits comes with an extra washer for each side in case you are using this system with our standard bracket. Our standard brackets are a little bit thinner. This is why we provide extra washers to stack up that height properly. It just aids in all of the fasteners stacking up properly and still keeping enough room behind here so that you don't have the screw, the mounting screw hitting the stud. So for this adjustable version, these are redundant. We are not going to use them. If you're using the standard bracket for the Elite 1 Fender Eliminator, then you will use those extra two. Those get used in front on top of the license plate. If you are using a license plate light on your setup, this is the time to get it on here and run the wire, because that gets clamped in between the license plate and the bracket. For this demonstration, we are focusing only on the components in the demonstration. Let me reiterate the order here. You have the screw going from the outside through a washer, through the license plate, through the flat bracket accepting the license plate, then the L bracket, then a washer, and now cap it off with a nut. Make my initial assembly with finger tightness. All these components will get adjusted to final position and tightened down with tools after we get this entire assembly on the bike. So I just take up enough slack by tightening it as hard as my hands can. And now I'm ready to go to this step. Let's get the wires through one more time, the final time. Quick tip here, if you are running a license plate light, it is best to wait to the very end of this procedure to feed your wire through. If you feed your wire before you're wiring in the signals, then it'll be pretty tight. All right, let's take up the slack here to approximately where we're gonna have the wires in their final position. I do like to use wire ties and get my signal wires run parallel to the back of this bracket and then cinch them off here. This way, from the side of the bike, you won't see wiring running along the side. It just makes it much more cosmetic. So later on, I will use 3 zip ties to get this nice and neat. For now, we're good. Now, top side here, let's take a look at the wires. Each one of these signals has 3 wires. Red goes to ground, blue goes to running light, brown goes to signal. In the back of this bike, we only have a 2-conductor plug providing ground and signal. The blue wire will be redundant, so we will be taping that off and not using it. The color scheme here from our harness converter, we will be going red to black and then brown into yellow. This will be for both sides. Now our connection kits come with these nice PVC sleeves that keep these connectors from touching each other after installation. However, they can slide. They have no means of locking together other than friction, and that, for the most part, usually works, but I like to be 100% sure, so I'm going to grab some electrical tape. The tape will not really serve as an insulator. It'll mainly just lock the insulators in place. All right, so I'm going to lock the two halves together on the positive first. Nice tight little winding here. And after that's done, I'm just gonna wrap the whole thing. This blue guy is not connected to anything, so we're just protecting that from any connection to anything around in the trunk area. And now I'm gonna throw a very tight, neat winding of tape around all of these components. Nice and neat, that's ready to go. Just gonna repeat steps on the other side. All right, now we have this chunk ready to go and get installed on the bike, and then we just plug it in. It'll be good to go. I'm gonna grab the hardware that is necessary for mounting this guy into the bike, and we'll hop on over, show you the rest of the steps. At this point, we will bring the assembly over to the bike, feed the wires from the bottom to the top, line up our Fender Eliminator assembly here, and fasten it using the instructions that were provided in the Fender Eliminator video. Typically at this point in these installation flows, this component is still off, so I'm going to take it off to demonstrate to you guys what's going on here. You have your signal leads here. If you're just doing the external signals with no other equipment, it's basically white to white, black to black. Test the equipment by powering it up. Okay, as expected, everything's working well. At this point, you manage the bulk of the wires. Typically, these come routed through the inside of the tube here and here. So that's what I would do. I just want to make a note, if you guys are running a Y splitter that permits the use of two signaling devices, you would use it as follows. Connect here, connect that to one of the outputs, and then if you're using an integrated taillight like we are, the other connector for the signal on the taillight for that particular side would be plugged in to that same Y splitter. As you can see, we have signal action from here and also from the tail light. At this point, I'm going to just plug in the single set of signals that are on the Fender Eliminator, route the wires, and neaten everything up. At this point, we just replace all of the components that had to come off to get to this place, replace the seat. We will subsequently mount a license plate onto our setup, Fender Eliminator setup, and then this job will be complete. That will be it for this segment. I just need to button up some other components here, but you guys get the idea. The rest of the steps are contained within the Fender Eliminator installation video. Now we're going to switch over to the other flow where we show you how to install the aftermarket signals with the Fender Eliminator. Now we bring the pre-assembled components here to the bike. We will feed the wires up through the wire routing window. Once they make it to the top, we'll align the closeout with the bike and proceed to fastening as per the instructions contained in our Fender Eliminator video. Now we will need to make the adjustment on how these signals are positioned within the L brackets. Make sure that the L brackets are symmetrical about the center plane of the bike. I'm going to use a 13mm open-ended wrench to tighten the nuts. This size is specific to the Quadrix signal I'm demonstrating this with. If you are using a different signal that we provide, like BL6, that will have a 12mm open-ended wrench necessary for the tightening of the nut. So here I have the center plane of the emission of light parallel with the ground, and I've adjusted my inboard outboard distances so that we are center around about the center plane of the bike. Everything's looking good and symmetric. Now I still have the ability to move my L brackets. So I will grab a 10mm open-ended wrench and a 4mm Allen. And these tools will be used to tighten down on this bolted connection. Tighten it down just a smidge. Leave a little bit of adjustability. Make sure that the actual lamp is level and parallel to the ground. And then tighten down all the way. Repeat the process on this side. I want to make a note about the tightness of the nut on the back side of this signal. We are using a mechanical steel fastener tightening down on a stud that is overmolded by this rubber. The rubber is here to deflect in case you kick it or you hit something with your signals. You do not want this thing to break off. That's why we do not mount them in a rigid way. What that also means is that you can overpower the overmold rubber by tightening too much on that nut that holds the signal onto the L bracket. So once you start feeling resistance, make sure you stop. Feel the signal, make sure it's not rotating, and then that's it. The friction between the rubber and the L bracket will take care of the rest. All right, so now this is all tight. I am going to use zip ties. This is just an optional step. It's up to you if you want to do it. I just like to make these wires really neat on the inside here. I want them to appear as little as possible. Cut the excess of the zip ties off and take up the slack of the wire from inside the trunk compartment. Not make it too tight. Still allow for the adjustability of the license plate bracket, but make it nice and neat and appear minimal. And now we can hop up top. I'll show you what to do with the wires. All right, up here, I've already identified that this lead goes to the right signal and this lead goes to the left. So white connector being the right, connect this here, connect this here, and then the rest of the job would be just distribution of the bulk. The OEM signals have an extended piece of wire that lives within the subframe tubes here, so we can send those in there and make it nice and neat as an alternative. You can also pass these wires on the outboard side of the tube in between the fairing and the tube, and that'll work too. Before I get too far, I like to test my setup, make sure that we have signaling, and as you can see, we have right, we have left, ample brightness, beautiful sequential pattern. I love these things. That's that on the connection here, unless you are running dual signals, which means you'd probably be taking advantage of our integrated taillight signaling system along with these signals. I have an integrated taillight already connected here, so I'll demonstrate with one side how to use the Y splitters. We have a matching connector that goes into the bike and splits our output into two. And basically just connect the taillight and your signal to that side. Let's see how we did. We have signaling from the signal lamp and also from the taillight. That would be the scheme of connection for our Y splitter kit. I'm going to back that up, perform the standard installation here. Excess into that tube I spoke about. Right, and at this point, all of this stuff is connected. Next step would be to replace this bracket, and then this part here, and then seat, and then the installation would be complete. All right, that's pretty much it, you guys. Bike's complete. Let's power it up, test it out one more time. We have right signal, we have left signal. I'm loving it. This is beautiful. I hope you guys agree. If you do, and you're interested in checking out some more information about these parts and other parts we have for this bike and other bikes that you may have in your stable, check out tstindustries.com. Also check out our YouTube channel. We have a bunch of videos covering the installations of all these parts that we manufacture and sell. Thanks for watching. Give me a comment. I like hearing from you guys. It's very important that we know how we're doing, and you guys are the ones that get to weigh in on that. So I hope to hear from you. I'll respond, my team will respond, and we'll have a conversation. Thanks, see you later, ride safe.